What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Middle Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken, and today I've got a little bit of a different type of video to bring you guys. So a lot of the new releases that I pre-ordered this week are still being delayed, like Singing in the Rain. I have not got yet. So a lot of the stuff that I had planned to do is kind of being thrown out the window right now. So, but I almost forgot about these questions that I put up in my community tab. So a couple of weeks ago, or about 10 days ago, I think, according to this post, I put out there that I wanted to do a Q&A style video with you guys. Not a live Q&A, but just a Q&A where you guys can leave me some questions and I can just kind of do a video answering those questions. I thought that would be interesting and kind of open up the floodgates to some interesting topics and some interesting thoughts from myself. And I like these things to be a little random. So I have looked through the questions, but most of this stuff's going to be off the cuff. I don't really have any prepared answers for you guys. So yeah, I thought I would do this Q&A today, just a really casual video. I just woke up like an hour ago. I've still got some coffee that I'm drinking right now. And yeah, a lot of great questions. But before we get into it, guys, before we get into answering these questions, if this is your first time discovering me here on YouTube, this is a weird video to jump into. So go check out some of my other videos, like my Blu-ray and 4K reviews, my physical media reports, my Blu-ray hunting videos, some of that stuff first, and then come back here and maybe you'll have a little bit better context of what this channel is. But basically, this is a physical media channel. We talk about Blu-rays, we talk about 4Ks, we talk about DVDs sometimes as well. And hit the subscribe button, you'll enjoy it. Also, be sure to like this video, and if you have any thoughts on anything that I say here today, or you just want to comment, hey Ken, how you doing today? Leave it in the comment section below. It definitely helps out that YouTube algorithm, and I would definitely appreciate it. And also turn on those bell notifications for all future videos. So I've been rambling long enough. I appreciate these questions so much. I'm going to try to get through as many of them as I possibly can. Don't know how long this video is going to be, but I doubt I'll be able to get through all of them. I got like 40, 45 questions here, which is super awesome. So I doubt I'll be able to get through all of them. I might do a part 2 though. But let's get started with the first question. And this comes from Tim Talks Talkies, my good friend Tim Talks Talkies. Definitely go subscribe to his channel over there. He does great physical media content as well. And he says, do you ever get burnout? YouTube is a ton of work and you put in more hours than a good chunk of the community. I have a ton of respect for you because not a chance I could do that kind of output and work full time. So this is a good question. This is a question that I honestly struggle with. Do I get burnouts? I'll be honest, there are days when I wake up and I'm like, I just don't feel like filming a video today. I don't feel like talking on camera and editing. I don't feel like going through that process. There are days like that, but for the most part, to be able to churn out this much stuff, you have to have a certain level of passion for it. And I genuinely do love, getting my thoughts and opinions out there about stuff. Like this is about physical media, about movies. This is why I created this channel. I genuinely do enjoy it. So it's very rare that I get burnout. And I have to imagine that if I do ever get some sort of burnout, I will probably cool it off a little bit. But right now I have so many thoughts and I have so many ideas just jumbled up in there and just swimming around, just constantly needing to get out of me. Like literally there are weeks where I've got 20 ideas and I'm like, I cannot put out 20 videos on my channel. It's just not possible. So I had to cut stuff and consolidate stuff and just really focus on the things that I feel like you guys are going to be interested in the most. So yeah, do I ever get YouTube burnout? Not on a grand scale. I would say not on a grand scale, not overall, but yes, there are days, where I just don't feel like putting anything out and I kind of have to force myself into doing it. So there are days like that, but for the most part, I genuinely enjoy doing what I do. So thank you so much for the Tim Talk Stockies. Thanks so much for the question. Then we go into Rob Savage, who says, let me see, this is a little bit of a long one. I would be interested in whether you think the growing trend of 4K upgrades is affecting the sales of Blu-ray releases. In my case, I know I'm more reluctant to buy Blu-rays from boutique labels if I think it may be getting a 4K upgrade. This is particularly true for English language releases by the Criterion Collection, thanks mostly to Kino Lorber. It also applies to Blu-rays sold by Arrow Video, Blue Underground, and others I think are candidates for 4K re-releases down the line. So This is a very interesting topic, and to be honest, this would deserve like a video all its own to talk about this, because this is a problem that's been kind of coming into play over the past couple of years with the boutique labels in particular. We've been dealing with regular Blu-rays that have been, transitioning to 4K for the past 5 or 6 years now. That's kind of a regular thing, and they're doing releases that, to be honest, were probably done in Blu-ray like 10 years previous. So it's not as big of a deal, but I completely understand. It is getting very hard to kind of figure out and navigate what Blu-ray releases from what boutique label you should be picking up, and which ones do you think are going to be released in 4K later on down the line. This situation has been happening to me a lot more and more lately. Like, I picked up Night of the Hunter from the Criterion Collection back in the November sale. Still haven't watched it, and now it's getting a 4K release from Kino Lorber. Now I'm reluctant to even watch Night of the Hunter from the Criterion that I bought, because I know it's getting a 4K, and I know I'm probably going to get it and talk about it on the channel. So it is a situation where you are a little bit afraid, a little bit reluctant to pick up these like past Blu-ray titles from Scream and Shout. Like when Scream and Shout has a sale and they're putting all these titles for $11 and $14, you're like, why these? Is it because you're getting ready to transition to 4K? You kind of have that in the back of your mind when it happens. Like Candyman was just put out from Scream Factory, I think in 2018, and now it's getting a 4K upgrade. There seems to be no rhyme or reason to what they're putting out. They're not like going in order and not like starting from the beginning and putting out 4Ks of those titles. Like Halloween 2 and 3, I think, were the first Scream Factories. They have put those out in 4K, but it seems to be random and all over the place as to what they're putting out. They're not starting from what they put out in 2012 and 2013, putting those on 4K first and then working their way up. They're doing recent releases in 4K. So that's interesting. Do I think it's affecting the sales? I think it absolutely could affect the sales. I don't think that it's been going on long enough to really have developed a trend. But I think it could absolutely affect the sales, because there are a lot of people that are starting to think like that with these upgrades. And I think that it is affecting boutique labels in particular, because we already spend like top dollar to pick up these boutique labels just in Blu-ray, and then for them to turn around a couple of months later, or a year later, or a couple of years later, and put out the same titles in 4K for pretty much the same price. Like, I haven't noticed the price really going up. That Arrow Video release of RoboCop was $32, and I remember when the Blu-ray release of RoboCop came out, I think it was more. I feel like the Blu-ray release of RoboCop was like $35 to $36 when it first came out, the big digipack release in the Steelbook. They did the exact same thing to 4K a few years later. I think RoboCop, the Blu-ray came out in 2019, and it was less. Like, I feel like the 4K of RoboCop was less than the Blu-ray. So it is coming to be a problem, I think, in particular with the boutique labels, rather than just the regular titles, because a lot of the regular titles that they're upgrading to 4K have been released on Blu-ray like 10, 12 years ago. So people don't mind upgrading those as much. Plus, the prices tend to be a little bit cheaper for those regular 4Ks than the new ones. So that's an interesting topic, Rob. I could probably dive a lot deeper into that and probably go for 20, 30 minutes. I already feel like I've been going on for a little bit too long, but that's definitely a great topic to dive into. So next question comes from BossmanFat69, and he says, how do you determine what movies to add to the collection? If you watch a movie and don't enjoy it, do you keep it in the collection? This is a good question, and this is one that I am only recently starting to think about. When I first got into collecting and I added a new Blu-ray to the shelf, I had it in my head that I'm not getting rid of this. I don't care if I don't like it or not. It's added to the shelf. It's a part of my collection. It's a part of who I am as a collector. I bought the damn thing. If I didn't like the movie as much, it's going on the shelf anyway to just fill out the collection. But as it grows and I'm starting to think about, okay, that entire wall back there is full, what do I have next? I have this wall, and then I've got, I can't really do anything with this one because this is kind of like my filming area. And then I've got this one over here. I could very realistically see myself in the next 2 or 3 years, just the way I have stuff coming in here, physical media coming in here, running out of room. And it's something I didn't really think about too much about a year or two ago, because I still had this entire wall to fill up. So I am starting to think about just what deserves a spot in the collection. I think over the next couple of years, you may want to look out for this on the channel. You might be seeing more of those types of videos where I'm going through the collection and deciding what I am going to keep and what I'm not going to keep. that could definitely be a thing. And because to be honest, there are movies back there that I will never watch again. I have no desire to ever watch again. I do just keep them for collecting purposes. Now, I'm not going to I probably won't get rid of Scream Factory or Arrow Video titles, even if I don't like them. I'm going to keep them because I like having that complete, I like having my boutiques a little bit more complete, and if they're a special edition, there's a possibility it could go out of print, could be worth some money someday. So I'm probably not going to get rid of those, but I don't know. It is something I do think about more and more each day, but it's something I didn't really think a whole lot about probably before like 6 months ago. So very good question, man. Thank you so much. Chris Carey says, we may listen to audio albums several times a week. How often do you watch a favorite film or a film in general? Also hardware related, do you have the scope to upgrade your entertainment equipment, either audio or visual wise? And if so, would you want to upgrade? Thanks, Ken. Keep it up. So I'm assuming with the equipment, I'm not sure if you're talking about like my equipment that I use to watch movies on, which I just have a basic, sound system, a soundbar, Sony soundbar set up, and a 65-inch LG 4K TV. I do need to upgrade that stuff. But you're talking about like equipment just for my general, I am working on that stuff. I just bought a new webcam. And started testing it. I'm pretty happy with it, but I could definitely, get better quality. I need to work on some lighting issues and things like that, I think are my problems. I do have a pretty good microphone. I've got this little stand I just bought recently as well. So yeah, I do plan to upgrade some stuff, but going back, because this was a two-part question, how often do I watch a favorite film? So here recently, I've just been watching so many new movies. I don't really have enough time, not new movies, but new movies to me. So I've been doing the theme months and just diving into stuff that I haven't watched before. So I'd say first time watches make up the bulk of what I watch nowadays. And I don't really have the time to go back and rewatch some of my favorites, but some of my favorites, I've seen hundreds of times. And if I am going to rewatch a movie, it's probably going to be with my kids or my wife or something like that. So yeah, I don't have a lot of time to rewatch some of my favorites. Every now and then, as I'm dozing off to sleep at night, I will throw on one of my favorite comedies or something, because I'm a big comedy fan. It's just I don't get to talk about it as much anymore because good comedies it's dead. The comedy genre is dead. They don't come out with good comedies anymore. I'm a huge fan of 90s comedies. I'm a huge fan of the 2000s era, the Apatow era, 40-Year-Old Virgin, all that stuff. So if I see it on Netflix, if I'm winding down for the night, I'm trying to go to bed, pass out or whatever, I'll throw on Superbad on Netflix. I'll throw on Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Those are the movies that I will rewatch over and over again because they take me to a happy place. So hope that answers your question, Chris, and thank you so much. And next up, I got Mel from My Killer Podcast, who has a great channel herself. Definitely go check her out. She asked, do you have a grail you are hunting or currently waiting for a release of? So nothing really, there's not really anything that I can think of off the top of my head that I'm sure there's tons of, Blu-rays and 4Ks and stuff out there that I just don't have the money to go out and spend for right now. So as for, am I waiting on something to be released? I think the big thing that we're all waiting for is Nightmare on Elm Street Scream Factory box set. That is the thing that's going to get me the most excited. If they announce it tomorrow, that's the thing that's going to make me pop the most. As far as my excitement level for a new physical media release. So just that nice, clean Nightmare on Elm Street Scream Factory box set with the same style of artwork for Friday the 13th. Hell, you can use the same artist. I don't care. New 4K scans for some of those movies. I'm salivating at the mouth thinking about that. But The Exorcist on 4K is something I need as well. I need a steelbook for that, a really nice steelbook for that with Reagan with some pea soup dripping down her gown. I need that. I need an awesome 4K cover for this. I'm pretty sure it's Warner Brothers that it's going to put that out. They usually do a good job. I need a Shining style slipcover for that release. With The Exorcist, just something really cool and different. Not just the poster to the movie, but I need something cool and different. When you take the slip off, it can be the poster of the movie, but I need a really cool exclusive for that, a steelbook. I need a big Zavi collector set. I will buy every version of that they put out. That is my favorite horror film of all time. So The Exorcist on 4K and Nightmare on Elm Street Scream Factory box set. Those are the things that I need and I am anxiously awaiting for. Also True Lies in 4K and Heat in 4K, obviously. But let's move on to Jonathan Pack, and he asks, I believe you mentioned that you have children. I'd be interested in knowing what movies you are making sure your kids see as they're growing up. I find it difficult to make sure I'm showing them essentials such as E.T. and The Princess Bride so that that way they are roaming the earth as adult, not knowing that aliens love Reese's Pieces, essential things like that. So I have shown my kids E.T. E.T. is my second favorite movie of all time. I absolutely adore E.T. I love it to death. So I made sure I showed them E.T. I think I showed my daughter E.T. for the first time when she was 2. And yeah, we've watched E.T. We watched it as recently as like 2 years ago. So the thing about my kids right now, my daughter is almost 8, my son is almost 12. They have almost no interest in watching movies. They love playing Fortnite and Roblox and stuff. So when me and my wife try to get the kids together to watch a movie, it is like pulling teeth. They don't really have any interest. Maybe we'll watch the latest Marvel film together, the latest animated Pixar movie together. But as far as like showing them the classics, I did show my son, me and my son watched not RoboCop, but Terminator 2 together, last year, which was awesome because he absolutely loved it. He really enjoyed Terminator 2, but it's not a type of love that he's like, I want to watch Terminator 2 and over and over again. He's just like, I really enjoyed that, Dad. That was really fun. We watched all the Back to the Future movies together. Me and my son did a couple of years ago. We watched the Karate Kid movies together. It was really awesome with Back to the Future because he got super in to that first movie, like at the end when he's like, they're trying to send Marty back through time. Like he was so into that. He was like on the edge of his seat. So that was really cool to watch. But as he gets older, my son is not into horror at all. Like he is not going to gravitate towards that spooky stuff at all. But as he gets a little bit older, I do want to share with him more of those like action films that I grew up with, like Con Air or Predator or Face Off or some of those other movies. But it might take a little bit for him to get into that. Now my daughter, she kind of takes to the spooky stuff just a little bit better than my son, so I'm kind of hoping that she's the horror fan in the household and that we can enjoy some of the Nightmare on Elm Streets and the Friday the 13th and the Halloweens and all that stuff together as she gets a little bit older. But yeah, I've shown my kids a lot of movies. Like I said, they're 12 and 8, so we've had time. Me and my wife, we watched Beetlejuice with them. We watched Edward Scissorhands with them. We've watched Jumanji with them. We like to go back and watch as many of those classics as we can. The next one I really want to watch with them is The Mask. I'm trying to get them to watch The Mask next because that's another favorite from my child and I think they would enjoy it. Mrs. Doubtfire, we all watched together a couple years ago, loved it. So yeah, I really am trying to get my kids, but like I said, they could not care less about movies right now. It's all like gaming and stuff to them right now. So I don't like to force them to do things they don't like as much. At least not all the time, but every now and then, again, it's okay. Scaps asked the question, I really enjoy the music in your videos. Do you create your own or sample others? So the thing about my music is it's all super generic. It's all off of the app that I use to edit my videos so that it has like generic stock music. So I am glad you enjoy it. But there's nothing special about that music. I don't sample anything. I don't create anything. I get that stuff off of that generic user playlist because none of that stuff is going to be demonetized. It's just basic music. And for me, I have been burnt a lot of times getting online looking for music and not getting it from the right places, and it demonetizes my videos. It creates a copyright strike or whatever. I try to stay away from that type of stuff. So yeah, it might not be the catchiest music out there. I would love to put in like licensed music and all that stuff into my videos and really create a theme and atmosphere to it. But at the same time, I don't want to get the copyright strikes, get the demonetization and all that. So I use that generic music on the app that I use, Power Director Pro. So I'm glad that you enjoy it though, because I get comments all the time from people. It's like, I hate your music. I love your videos, but I hate your music. It's gotten to the point where I try to not use it anymore because I'm pretty comfortable talking in the stores now and I don't need the music all the time. So I try to stay away from music as much as possible unless it's like my intro and outro and all that stuff. So, but thank you so much for the question, Scaps. Blue Box asked, if you were a talented actor or director, what movie of any era would you lend your talents to? I'm trying to piece together this question in my brain. If I was a talented actor or director, what movie of any era would you lend your talents to? Man, I would look. I'm really trying to think of what I'd be good at. This is a really hard question because I really have no interest in acting or directing or any of that kind of stuff. I guess like when it comes to YouTube, I kind of do act and I kind of do direct myself and produce and edit and all that stuff. I do everything here myself. So it's kind of weird for me to say that I wouldn't want to do that. What would I lend my talents to? God, I'm trying to think. I guess I would want to make a horror movie. I would want to make a horror movie for sure. Probably a slasher, and probably in the 80s. So I would lean towards that. A slasher movie in the 80s is what I want to make. But let's move on to Wendy Tipton. She asks, do you collect other physical media, magazines, vinyl, books, etc.? So I try to stay away from some of that other stuff. I have collected many things in the past. I used to be big into video games, used to collect a lot of video games. But I try to focus on one thing at a time. So right now it's movies for me, and that's where most of my money goes. And if I start to branch out a little bit in different directions, I'm really going to be spending way too much money. And I'm a pretty thrifty, I'm a pretty frugal person. I don't like spending all of my disposable income on my hobbies and things like that. There's other things in life that I kind of want. So, and I also like having money in the bank as well. It just makes me feel good. So do I collect other physical media? I have started, buying some magazines here and there from Barnes & Noble, like the new, I forget what it's called, but the new horror magazines that come out. Fangora magazine, I think I bought recently. So I'm starting to get into that a little bit. I would love to, for collecting books would be pointless because I like buying books, and I used to read a lot, but I just don't have any time, or I don't have the focus necessarily anymore to really focus and hone in on a good book. And I wish I did. It's something I really do want to get back to. Vinyl, I'll say right now, again, another thing I would love to collect for. I do love music. I do love the scores of films. I do have a vinyl on pre-order right now. I'll share that with you guys when I do get it in. So vinyl is something I could see myself jumping into in the near future, but it's not something I'm going to go hard into like movies for sure. But definitely I could probably pick some up at like Goodwills and stuff like that for super cheap. So thank you so much for the question, Wendy. I appreciate it. Silver Bullet says, hey Ken, do you think you'll ever get The General with Brendan Gleeson? And what's your favorite horror comedy? So The General with Brendan Gleeson, I did look this up. It's a 1998 film, which tells the real life story of Dublin folk hero and criminal Martin Shalley, who put off 2 daring robberies in Ireland with his team and attracted unwanted attention from the police, the IRA, and UVF and members of his own team. So this is starring, this looks like Jon Voight. Is that Jon Voight in that movie? So sure, I could see myself getting this movie. Why not? From 1998, sure. But I did want to look it up to kind of see what you were talking about and give myself a little context to the question. But what's my favorite horror comedy? I feel like I've said this before, but I love horror and I love comedy. Growing up, I've usually liked to keep things separate, and I never gravitate towards the horror comedies as much. So I'm trying to think of exactly what would be my favorite horror comedy. Would you count Cabin in the Woods as a horror comedy? I would probably lean towards that. I also watched Return of the Living Dead for the first time last year. I really loved that, and I think that's pretty much the definition of a horror comedy. So I would say either one of those two. Also, Shaun of the Dead I really enjoy. So I would say any one of those 3 would be a good answer. Secular Monk said, how do you determine what films to make review videos for? So I do remember seeing this question. This is actually a really good question. I'm trying to formulate my thoughts around this one right now. So going into the week, I try to decide what I'm going to review, and I try to prioritize stuff. So pretty much going into the month, I'll try to start, that's why I kind of created the videos at the beginning of the month to kind of give you all an idea of what I'm interested in the most. So I do like to make sure that I cover all of the bases in terms of like the boutique labels. I do like to make sure that in a month's time, I review a Criterion, I review a Screen Factory, I review an Arrow video title, which that's definitely easier because I usually get Arrow stuff sent to me to review from MBD Entertainment, so that's always super helpful. And then, Criterion, Kino Lorber, Scream Factory. I like to cover some bases. I like to dip my toes into Vestron, some of the other labels. Like I'll just randomly review a random Blu-ray at times as well. New 4K releases are obviously a must, like newer titles. RoboCop in 4K, which was Arrow, but Shawshank Redemption in 4K, The Green Mile in 4K. I do like to review some of those newer titles. as well. Halloween Kills in 4K I did at the beginning of the year. So I try to move around everywhere. I try to cover a lot of different bases because I like to cover things that not everybody's covering sometimes, but then again, it's also good for the channel and good to get more eyes on the channel to cover that mainstream stuff as well. So I like to cover some mainstream stuff. I like to cover some smaller stuff that nobody's covering. So basically, at the end of the day, honestly, I just cover the stuff that I'm really interested in and think I'll be the most passionate about, if I'm being honest, because I don't want to watch stuff just to watch it and review it. So when Fast 9 came out on 4K, I'm not watching that because I don't give a shit about the Fast and the Furious. So I'm not going to do a 4K review of the Fast and the Furious because I don't care. I just don't care enough to do it. Now, there are titles that I had done that before in the past, but I try to stay away from that kind of stuff, to be honest. But that was a really good question, man. Thank you so much. Deadly Spooky asks, how do you deal with the dust? How do you deal with dust and how do you go about cleaning the collection? That's a good question as well. So periodically, I will go through with a little wipe. I don't get like really into the nitty gritty and the crevices of it, but I will go through like with a cleaning wipe and I will just wipe down the top of all the Blu-rays, all the tops that get all dusty and stuff, because I don't put my stuff in bags and things like that. I know there's some collectors that do that and I definitely admire that, but it's just something that I'm not particularly into doing. But I'll take a little cloth and I'll wipe everything down. I'll just run through it. Just a really like general cleaning, I guess. Again, I don't get into the nitty gritty and the crevices and of everything and all that kind of stuff. I'll go on the bottom shelf and I'll wipe stuff down. Now, when I did reorganize my entire collection and I was taking stuff off the shelves, usually that area will stay clean because all the Blu-rays are on it. But some of those areas were pretty dusty, so I made sure I wiped down everything. So within the last couple of months, I've wiped down all those shelves because I had to move everything around. So periodically, yes, I do like to go through when I notice everything's really dusty and I'm like, I need to wipe this stuff down. So yeah, a good question though, man, a good question. So periodic cleanings definitely take part. Are definitely a part of my routine here as well. Triple R3 says, are there any movies you watch on Blu-ray or DVD instead of 4K because the lower resolution keeps some of the movie magic? For instance, I watched Batman 89 on DVD a lot because the face prosthetic on Joker looks a little bit more believable, and Spider-Man 2002 on DVD, which makes a Green Goblin at the parade look more realistic when he's flying away. That's interesting, Triple. That is really interesting that you bring that up. So because I got out of physical media collecting, I think in 2016, I sold off my entire DVD collection because I was going to go digital. I was one of those stupid idiots. And then I quickly got back into collecting. So I had to rebuy a lot of my movies that I sold on DVD on Blu-ray. But the only movies that I kept, and I'm still not going to get rid of them, is my horror movies on DVD. And it's because I kind of had that mindset, like with horror, because it's supposed to be a little scarier, it's supposed to be a little dirtier, it's supposed to be a little grungier, a little grittier. When you're watching the movies, like the DVD quality of it kind of adds to that aesthetic a little bit. To be honest, the VHS quality would definitely probably take me back and invoke those old school, like scary feels that I had when I was a kid watching those movies. So I do get that, but generally now, like I just want to watch everything in the best quality that I possibly can. So I don't really go back. Like if I have something on Blu-ray or 4K and I'm going to watch it, I'm probably going to watch it on that. I'm not going to go back and watch it on DVD for, XYZ reasons or whatever. But that's a really good question, man. I appreciate that. Jerry Michael says, hey, Ken, not to bash you, but how about, I don't like the way this is starting. Hey, Ken, not to bash you, but how about listing your top, whatever number you decide on, films that you know you just got to sit through and watch to get off your still need to see list? I think we'd all be interested to know. There's so many, man. Like this would be too many to make a list of. I could probably make a top 50 for the rest of the year, every single week of movies I still need to watch. And that's because, look, I'm going to get into this at some point. But like I get a lot of criticism on the channel for not seeing a lot of movies. And I will say that before I came into this movie space on YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff, I considered myself a pretty big movie fan. I consider myself to have watched a lot of movies in my lifetime, but you guys sometimes make me feel like if I have not seen every movie that ever existed, there's no point in me having a channel to talk about movies because I need to know every single movie that's ever existed. And if I haven't seen a movie, that is just the worst thing in the world. So I will say that you guys sometimes will make me feel like that. But I've seen a lot of movies. There's still a lot of movies I need to see because there's a lot of people with a lot of different tastes. And I realize there's a lot of people that watch these videos that all have different tastes and they all have different movies that's important to them. I have my movies that are important to me. You have your movies that are important to you. So for you, when I say that I haven't seen this movie that you've loved since you were a kid, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe you haven't seen that movie. I've loved that movie since I was a kid. For me, it's just another movie that I need to watch and get off my list. So there's so many movies. I can make countless lists of the movies I need to watch, but all I can say and all I continue to say on here is I'm working on it. I'm actively working on trying to fill in these gaps on this channel. For me, this channel isn't about like my film knowledge necessarily. It is about my journey through film, through the lens of physical media, getting to watch all these classic films through all of these incredible new physical media releases. That is what this channel is all about. You are witnessing my journey through film, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So that's what we're doing here. Just to let you guys know, this is not a channel where I'm like, you know, trying to talk about my expert knowledge in film and giving you all these really extensive diatribes on all of these incredible films that I've seen in my lifetime and why you should watch them. But this is me experiencing film, and you guys are witnessing this firsthand right here and now. So yeah, enjoy it. Enjoy the ride is what I like to say. So Scaps asks, what is it like living in the state you live in? Have you ever thought about living somewhere else? So the state I live in is Kentucky, and I'll say this, I'm a quiet guy, and I like quiet. I like a quiet atmosphere. I like there being not too much going on around me. Kentucky may not be the best state for that, but it's a pretty good state for that. It is getting a little bit busier. There's more people that feel like they're moving into Kentucky every day, but I'd say the population is fairly low when you take into account other states' populations. So I like living here. Kentucky, it's where, you know, I've grown up. So lived here pretty much my whole life. So I like this state. And I've got a lot of cool little flea market pawn shops and thrift shops and stuff like that I honestly need to dive a little bit deeper into. And I hear from some people that they don't have that. So I'm trying to see how many questions I have left. I'm going to have to split this into a two-parter. So we're going to end right here, guys. We're going to end right here, but I will come back to do a part two because I don't want to leave any of these questions unanswered. But right now I'm about at the 30-minute mark. I'll probably cut a little bit of this out. So I appreciate everybody watching this video. This was very fun to make. I love just talking about random topics and things like that. So very fun to make. I appreciate everybody that left me a question. I appreciate everybody that watched this. Please like this video. Subscribe to this channel. If you got any thoughts on anything I said here today, leave it in the comment section below. Also, turn on those bell notifications and follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are in the description, and we'll see you next time.